On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Stormblast by Dimmu Borgir. Dimmu Borgir. Dimmu Borgir. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I don't know why I started like that. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome to a very silly episode, a very foppish episode of I turned into Stewie Griffin
You
there
did
for a
little
second.
bit, just for a moment.
A very foppish episode of the Bronze Medalist podcast. I'm Care.
See, I like your new setup in here. Got a new setup going on?
You didn't introduce yourself.
No, well,
no one knows who you are.
Well, nobody. Well, I'm the mystery guy, I guess.
You're the mystery man?
I'm OJ.
The mystery man.
The mystery man.
It's such a big mystery that they could go back one episode to unravel it.
Hey, it's that guy's voice. I know him.
I remember I've listened to this podcast before. But yeah, I changed things in the room that we're sitting in. I brought my kitchen table into my studio room.
So does it mean you're going to eat in here now? Is that?
I do actually eat in here,
Okay.
but that's just because that's where most of my other digital things are,
Sure.
except for my flat screen, my bigger one, and my I guess my record player is still out there. But
Your record player.
my record player, this is an established fact that I like vinyl, and
Your hi-fi is out in the.
yeah, I am not Cetone's chaser. I'm not Squiscar, but I listen to all of my music on streaming services now for the most part.
Yes, I'm here.
So for me, when I want to spend money on music, I like the idea of having something that is collectible.
Sure.
And having something that is maybe a bit more expensive, where perhaps more money goes to the band, or it goes to like the local record store or what have you.
And I think on some level the record industry is depending on fellas like you.
Yeah, because it's like sometimes I want to buy music, and I that's how I am with all my band merch and whatnot. I like to buy stuff at concerts.
Oh, sure.
Because I know that's money in their pockets right there, especially for metal bands. It's like they're living off of this while they're on the road for the most part. So I always like to buy stuff, and when they have vinyl at shows, that's perfect for me.
Perfect.
Although I think the most recent show that I went to where they had vinyl was when I didn't have a record player.
Oh, sure.
I went to
So there's no reason.
I went to a Ghost Bath show over the summer, and they had vinyl there, but I did not have a vinyl record player yet. That was in the period when I was still waiting, I think, I wouldn't have had it yet because I did not buy my Converge vinyl until September.
And that was your first one.
And that was my first one, and I didn't have a record player yet.
Sure.
I was at a record store, was looking around, saw Jane Doe, and went, fuck. I guess I have to get into vinyl now. So yeah, that's how I got into vinyl. I don't know how we got into this topic, but I'll post pictures, I guess, of the new setup. I got a new chair today. Other things that happened. I got a brand new.
How'd you get it so fast? I knew you ordered offline, which you're not supposed to do.
Oh yeah, well that's a work thing.
Yeah.
But now I looked locally beforehand,
Sure.
actually, because we had our office party over the weekend, and we got bonuses. It was cash bonus, and I was looking to spend it on a new chair, and I looked all around town. I guess I didn't go to actual furniture stores, but I don't think they would have had the sort of thing that I was looking for.
No, they wouldn't have had this.
Yeah, because it's like a racing chair for gaming.
Right.
And it's a brand that I'm fairly familiar with. I've seen them in videos where people have them and whatnot, and I've always thought they look very comfortable and very stylish. So
It's got lumbar support.
it has lumbar support. I can take that off. I'm trying to figure out how much I need in this new chair, but like I've been looking for a new chair for a while because I wanted something with a headrest on it for when I'm at my computer because I have terrible posture when I'm sitting at my computer. So I wanted something that incentivized me to sit back and sit up straight. So yeah, now we're both trying to sit up straight.
Posture?
Yeah.
All right.
But listener, how's your posture?
Are you sitting up right now?
Yeah, sit up straight.
Find
Take a deep
chair.
breath.
Yeah. Because here we go.
Yeah, here we go. I rearranged everything in here. My computer is now actually away from us. I don't have my computer in front of me. So what I did today for the album that we're listening to is I printed off
on paper
Dimmu Borgir's band page on Wikipedia, and then the page for Stormblast.
Sure.
So I printed that off on paper, so I have that in front of me for reference because I liked the idea of sitting back at these tables and talking here, and it's the room is far more open. It feels a lot less stuffy. I think
does.
The wood of the table, even though it's particle board or whatever, sort of lean in and put an arm up on the table and hey,
sure. We have a cigar going here if you want.
Yeah, that might be probably not inside. But yeah, I like that. I like that idea. So
sure.
I rearranged. We've got some IPAs here if we want to open those up because you were concerned they might have been shaken. So here's the bottle opener. Prost. Something else I wanted to mention that I started doing over the weekend, and I think it's appropriate since we're in the middle of Black Metal January. I started playing a game that has very, very significant Nordic themes. I started playing the new God of War.
Sure.
It's not new. Is it? Would you still call it new? It is the newest God of War.
It's new to you.
It's been out for almost a year, and it's new to me because I didn't have a PS4 until recently when I bought it off of a friend, a coworker, I suppose.
No, you've had it completely spoiled for you already.
Oh yeah, I completely spoiled myself.
You spoil yourself.
You
deserve it.
Oh, I spoiled myself because when the game came out, I did not think I was going to have a PS4 in any reasonable amount of time to play it. So I was just interested in the game because I love a lot of things related to Norse culture and Norse mythology. And I thought, I've always thought Kratos as a character was interesting, and then they introduced Atreus as his son and all of that stuff. So I thought it was very interesting. So I decided to watch like one of those 3-hour-long cinematic compilations and other various bits of back and forth from non-cinematic parts of the game, like bits with Mimir talking to them and him telling stories and that sort of thing.
It's all very cinematic.
The game is presented in one long take. There's no cuts. There's no camera. There's no camera movements. Camera in quotations because it's a game.
Sure, there's no actual camera in there.
Yeah, it's done in the style of having no sorts of cuts in it, which is interesting, and I'm sure it's been done in a game before, but I thought that was very interesting. I don't know if someone on the development team saw Birdman and was like, let's do that, but with a game and with axes and magic and
maybe not.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't it, but
and it's funny in a video game and in a movie like that, the camera is like that third character.
Yeah,
in the game or in the movie.
Yeah, because there are times where, and I feel like this must have been done. I don't know how they simulated the movement of the camera because there are times where the camera is detached from Kratos' point of view.
Sure.
And then it transitions back to it, but they make it look like it's handheld at points, without not necessarily just shaky cam, but they make it look like it is, kind of handheld. Yeah. Right. Like somebody is using it, and it still bobs up and down as if someone was holding it. And I don't know if that is something they simulated digitally or when they were doing motion capture, if they had some sort of moving rig, I did watch a little bit of behind the scenes stuff for the mocap experience, mainly because I was interested in hearing Christopher Judge talking about playing Kratos because I grew up as a massive Stargate fan.
Sure.
And so Christopher Judge was one of the main characters, Teal'c. So I was very interested when I heard Christopher Judge was going to be Kratos. I was like, oh, that's so perfect.
I know. And his work with Beavis and Butthead, I thought it was really, really good as well.
What?
That's Mike Judge. Never mind. Different
you boy. There was a great moment that I immediately was like, oh, that's a Stargate reference. It's because Kratos just says "indeed" one time.
Sure, indeed.
Indeed. It's like, okay. All right, you guys. You got me. That's good.
Wink.
I'm a sucker for that sort of thing. So yeah, I've been enjoying it so far. I haven't gotten particularly far into it. I feel I just completed like the objective in Alfheim. I went into the light.
Oh wow.
So now I'm gonna be
in.
Yeah, a decent ways in, I suppose. I haven't gotten to the top of the spoilers false mountain. Where you get to the top of it and Mimir's like, this isn't the tallest mountain.
No, what are you guys doing? What do you mean the tallest
You dumb
mountain in all the
motherfuckers.
Dumb motherfucker. I don't think I think you're paraphrasing. Dumb motherfuckers.
That's
is
what
not
Brock
exactly,
would say.
Yeah.
Brock would say that. The foul-mouthed dwarf that you meet. So, do you want to get into it?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, so this week you brought Stormblast by the Norwegian band Dimmu Borgir.
Yes.
Dimmu Borgir is a symphonic black metal band, which is, there are a couple sort of distinct sub-genres of black metal. You've got regular black metal, you've got symphonic black metal, and you've got what I intend to bring next week, which is like folk black metal.
Really? Even though we'll be out of...
Not next week.
Oh, we won't be out of it, right.
The week after.
Right.
On Wednesday, the week after, will be technically still January, but that episode will come out on Friday, which will be the 1st of February.
1st,
so
right.
we will no longer be doing black metal then.
The day before my birthday.
Really?
Yes.
Well, happy early birthday to you.
Thank you.
Next month, by the way, Female February.
Female
gets
February.
Started. And I'm kind of leading into that with next week's.
Okay.
Just sort of a soft lead in.
So a crossover, if you will, between the two genres.
Between the two genres of female and black metal.
Female and black metal.
So like I said, this is symphonic black metal. So when you hear symphonic tacked on to a kind of metal, basically what that means is they have a keyboardist and he goes nuts sometimes.
Yeah, you think maybe, hey, they're going to have like a band, like a big orchestra. No,
it's just one dude on a keyboard simulating those instruments. And it's symphonic metal is something that I haven't gotten into all that much. There are bands that I listen to that have symphonic elements.
Sure.
Like the earlier works from this Australian deathcore band called Make Them Suffer has some symphonic elements, but mostly it's just piano rather than full on simulated violins and whatnot. And then what other bands? I suppose Shadow of Intent is another deathcore band that has some symphonic elements because they are a Halo-themed band, and so they want to evoke, or they were at least, their first two albums were based off of like the Halo universe.
They ventured away from that.
And so they wanted to evoke the soundtracks of those games.
I love bands that start out as a video game tribute.
Yeah. Well, and they did it so well, too. They haven't put out an album since they announced they were going to move away from that, but they did put out a song, which I thought was fine. It's good, and their vocalist is an absolute monster. So, anyhow, Dimmu Borgir. Speaking of monstrous things, Dimmu Borgir. So Dimmu Borgir, the etymology of their name.
Yeah, it's an actual place.
Yeah, it's a place in Iceland. It means it's one word in Icelandic.
Dimmu Borgir.
Dimmu Borgir in Icelandic, Faroese, and Old Norse, which Old Norse and Icelandic are very close together. It means dark cities and or dark castles or fortresses, and it refers to this rock formation in Iceland that is kind of this very imposing. It looks like in the distance, if you saw it silhouetted by like moonlight or something, it would look like an evil castle of some type.
You would expect to hear...
Yeah, you would expect to hear some lightning and see some bats fly up out of it, and some your Foley work is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Your Foley work is fantastic. So we listened to Stormblast, which is their second studio album that came out in 1996, January of 1996. So,
but it's actually two albums.
I suppose it is two albums in a way, because there is a re-recorded version, not a remix, not a remaster, a completely re-recorded
Just
version
redid the whole thing.
that came out in 2005. I listened to both versions.
As did I.
I will say I do. It's not the cool cult thing to say, but
You're
I
going to
do.
say the opposite of what I want to say.
Yeah, I do much prefer the re-recorded version.
Sure. Because that's the album that they intended to make. They didn't have the technology for it in 1995 or 1996, I guess is when it came out.
Yeah. And re-recorded albums don't always, like, sometimes they miss a bit of the heart, but to me, like, that sound is what is more closer to what I know Dimmu Borgir as.
Right.
It's, they're not known for being a lo-fi band.
No. They're known for being actually very high fidelity.
Yeah, for black metal. And one thing I wanted to bring up is I think that is really due to the symphonic element.
Sure.
Because the thing about having a lot of keyboards is a keyboard is a digital instrument.
Right.
It is simulating different instruments and sounds digitally. And when you bring a digital instrument into like an analog recording, and like a lo-fi analog recording at that in the style of black metal, it tends to sound pretty out of place. It really stands out, and it kind of stands out like a sore thumb. At least that's the way I felt like on the original release.
See, and I felt it fit in well.
Okay,
I felt it did.
You can feel however you like. That's fine. This is
well,
like one of our one of our first disagreements, I think. All right, old man, what did you like so much about the old version?
Oh, we're gonna wrestle.
We're gonna
no, not really, not actually physically.
Not.
This is actually a verbal wrestling.
A verbal wrestling.
Yeah.
Doing some wrestling.
Grease up, buddy. We're gonna wrestle.
Oh
No.
God. Grease me up, woman. Groundskeeper Willie.
No, I loved them both. I actually did.
Yeah.
I like the melodic S-backs.
The S-backs?
The melodic
Xbox?
S-backs. Xbox and both of them. They both had the same, obviously the same songs.
Yeah, it's all the same material,
Right.
with one exception, which we'll get to a little bit
Yes.
later. But it is all the exact same material. The only thing that is different is I think they're the vocal layering. On the original version, I think it was mostly just the traditional.
Well, kind of the vocals themselves. Really.
Yeah. The vocals themselves, I think, are a bit higher quality. And I think their vocalist, whose name is, looking at my reference material here, their vocalist is Shagrath.
Yeah, Shagrath.
Shagrath. He, I think, has just gotten better over the years. Stormblast was their second ever album, so I think his technique has simply just improved over the years.
Yes.
And become more consistent. I think that if we're going for like black metal cred, the older version definitely is a lot closer to what you would expect. Like what you have in your mind's eye as like this is what a black metal vocalist sounds like.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of more crackly and
A little more raw.
a little more raw.
Yeah.
Whereas there's still almost entirely unclean vocals and screamed vocals on this album. There is a little bit of singing, isn't there? Or maybe that was what I was listening to from some of their later work.
Yeah, that was their later work.
Okay.
There's no real singing in this.
Yeah.
Like melodic singing.
Yeah. And on the newer version, he has that more traditional higher black metal vocal, and then layered in with occasional deeper growls and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and a lot of those deeper growls aren't present on the original.
Yeah, it's just the traditional
Right.
black metal higher pitched
Sure.
scream on the original version. So that I appreciated the layering, but I think it would have been just as fine without it on the newer version. So yeah, you like the lower fi.
I like the rawness. I like the.
It is pretty raw.
It is pretty raw, comparably.
Comparably speaking, I think for a black metal album coming out in 1996, it was probably pretty polished, but
By comparison.
yeah, compared to the sort of the industry standard of today, and then also just Dimmu Borgir in general, original recording of Stormblast is very raw in comparison, because now they are very hi-fi and
Now I'm trying to think. Their later stuff, is it in English?
yes, this
Yeah.
was the last album that they recorded in Norwegian.
Right.
which lends itself to the fact that I didn't look up the lyrics, so I have no idea what most of any of these songs are about.
It looks, some of them are pretty satanic.
All right, yeah. Well, no. I mean, they're named after a dark, spooky castle. So.
Sure.
One thing that I do like, that I do appreciate about Dimmu Borgir is when you look at their Wikipedia section, there is not a gigantic section about controversy. Like, it seems like they've just been doing their thing. To me, it feels like they have a lot of fun doing it.
Well, sure.
Like, they sound fun. It feels like they aren't taking themselves too seriously, which is, as we discussed on the Mayhem episode, kind of a problem that I have with black metal, the black metal community in general, is they take themselves so seriously, obnoxiously seriously.
Yeah.
And Dimmu Borgir has always struck me as they're just kind of having fun.
You know, and it's one thing that it's sort of a conflict for me with black metal, is that a lot of it is just so well constructed and put together and made to be this theater.
Yeah.
And to me, at the same time, I'm thinking, you know, it's this greater, and it's supposed to make me feel this certain way about this larger image, and it's spooky and it's crazy. And at the same time, I'm thinking, you know, he's playing just a regular guitar.
Yeah.
And they're hitting regular drums, and between takes somebody takes a shit. You know, I mean, it's, you know,
the reality of it.
Seeps in.
And for me, sometimes it gets to the point, depending upon how theatrical it is.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where you start thinking, well, this is a bit silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is just a tad silly. And so it sort of depends on the mood I'm in, whether or not I feel that way. I was listening to Abrahadabra. It's not Abracadabra.
No, it's Abrahadabra.
It's Abrahadabra, which is their album from 2010. And that one, much more so than Stormblast, that one I started listening to and was like, this is a little silly, isn't it? This does feel a little silly to me.
Yeah.
Controversy I wanted to talk about.
It's not huge.
Yeah, it's not huge. But for Stormblast itself, that's, I think, is one of the only controversies the band has had, at least in the scope of black metal in general. I'm sure there are people who have taken issue with every little thing about the band because they're a black metal band and they have satanic lyrics and whatnot. But for the re-released version, there's a song that is missing. It was an instrumental song, mostly or entirely keyboard, that was called Sorgens Kammer.
Sorgens Kammer. It's track 3?
Yes, I believe it is track 3.
Yeah.
Let me look here. Nope, track 4.
Track 4.
It is track 4 on the original version, and it was removed because the keyboardist that they had at the time actually plagiarized it from a video game that came out in 1992. It was a game for the Amiga, and it was called Agony. So I mean, I think I briefly looked up what Agony was about. I don't recall, but from the name of it, it sounds like the sort of thing a guy from a black metal band would play. I think there's a game that came out last year that's also called Agony.
I forgot about the Amiga.
Yeah, the Amiga. What company was that made the Amiga?
Was it? No, it wasn't in television. It wasn't.
I don't think so. I think it was.
It's a now defunct.
Yeah,
company.
I think so. Was it Commodore? Commodore Amiga?
Maybe.
No. I think I watched there's a great YouTube channel. If you're ever interested in like the history of gaming, there's a great YouTube channel called Ahoy he makes fantastic, basically like hour-long documentaries about gaming history. And I think he had an episode about the Amiga. Yeah, it was an Amiga game called Agony. He passed it off as his own. He didn't just say, "Oh, this is my cover of it, and we're going to put it on this album."
No.
He tried to say it was an original recording. And there's also parts for Commodore.
Yeah.
It was Commodore. Yeah. Okay. Parts for the intro for the song Alt Lis Svunnet Hen, which is the intro of the song, used parts from a Magnum song called Sacred Hour, which is also why the intro is not part of that song on the re-recorded version. So that keyboardist, who's no longer with the band, guilty of some plagiarism.
They booted him out.
And that's the worst sin, I think, that most anyone from the band has committed. I believe on both versions, there are guest appearances by Hellhammer from Mayhem, who's does guest appearances on the drums. And then someone named Mustis. I don't know what band he is from, but he was on keyboards and piano, maybe on the re-recorded version. And I was reading a little bit more about Mayhem. We'll talk briefly about Mayhem.
Again, 3 weeks in a row.
About how they got together and went to like a Hellhammer show or something like that and met another one of the band members that would join in. And then like...
Not the band Hellhammer.
No, they went to a show of the band Hellhammer.
Of the band Hellhammer.
And then later they have a drummer that's just named Hellhammer who's just like, I love Hellhammer so much, that's going to be my stage name.
Hellhammer eventually would become Celtic Frost.
Okay, that's the other thing we do disagree on. I don't care how the vocalist says it. It's Celtic. And I know that on, like, if you look up the pronunciation, I know it for like the ethnic group, or not ethnic group, but like the linguistic group. I know it does technically apply to both. I know you can say Celtic, but
they're really big fans of the basketball team.
Yeah, they're huge fans of the Celtics. I prefer Celtic.
Sure,
I think
fine.
that's I like that better. I don't know why.
You do you, man.
I always will. I can't actually do anything else.
No.
I can only do me. If I see No, I have just made myself sad. No, I can only do me, you know. If you think that I am someone else, it's because I'm pretending.
Sure.
That is what is known as acting.
Acting.
Some people have forgotten
Yeah.
that acting is simply just pretending to be someone that you aren't.
Oh, trust me, I know. I did community theater for a long time.
I think I've told this. I don't know if I've told this story before on the podcast, but I got reminded of, I want to say it was Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier.
Sure.
That this anecdote is about. And one was in like an older guard, traditional like Hollywood
Laurence
type
Olivier.
actor.
Right.
So I think it was Laurence Olivier, and then one was from a newer generation, and I think it was Dustin Hoffman. It might have been Sean Penn.
Okay.
But they were in a car together and going to a premiere of perhaps some movie they'd been in together. That's the part where I'm like, was it those two? Because I don't know if they've ever been in a movie together. But at any rate,
with Kevin Bacon, they were in a movie
with also Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
But Sean Penn and/or Dustin Hoffman was talking about all the things they had done to prepare for the role that they played in the movie, and the other guy just goes, "Why didn't you just act?
Yeah, just pretend.
Why didn't you just pretend that you were that person? That's what I do." It's like you can do research and whatnot, and learn this person's mannerisms but like
that's fine.
Like method acting has become this gigantic, like bastardized version of what it really is. Like I remember I took an acting class and we talked about the original like method acting, and really all it is just what I've always thought. Like when you need to portray an emotion, what I have always thought everyone is supposed to do is think of a time in your life when you have felt that emotion or a similar emotion, and
go with it.
With that.
Yeah.
That's just a very basic thought, and I was like, that's all that really is. There's more nuance to it, but
not really.
Not so much. But like method acting has become like Leonardo DiCaprio. I slept inside this bison and whatnot. It's like, or frickin' Jared Leto mailing dead mice to his co-stars on Suicide Squad.
Use condoms.
He did all of that shit for a fucking terrible movie. It's like you sacrifice that much of your time and pissed so many of your co-stars off for not only 12 minutes of screen time, but also a shitty ass movie. So
in doing community theater, I used to encounter, at least it was one guy, I won't say his name, I'll just say he used to be married to my wife. And,
okay.
And you couldn't talk to him before going on stage.
Oh.
Even if it was a rehearsal, you couldn't talk because he was getting into character.
Yeah.
And I'd be, I'm smoking a cigarette and listening to the new whatever album.
Yeah.
It's like, aren't you getting into character? It's like, I'm not on stage for another 5 minutes, so I don't need to do any of that.
I don't need to get into character until I step foot onto the stage.
Indeed, and that used to piss people off. And it's like, you realize we're at a bingo hall in a senior center, right?
This is Minot, North Dakota.
Yeah. You don't have a trailer.
Yeah. Some
Except
people
when you live in.
Savagery. The
Yeah.
savagery
Well,
on display right now. It has always bothered me just a little bit, and it's like, on one hand, do what you got to do to get it to get a good performance out of it, but don't be an asshole about it. That's just my philosophy in life.
don't be an asshole.
Do what you got to do, and don't be an asshole.
That is the ultimate philosophy.
Yeah. If whatever you have to do in your life to progress or, accomplish something, if whatever you have to do requires you to be a dick, maybe don't do the thing.
Sure.
Just or maybe think a little bit harder and figure out a way to do that without being a dick.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I try to operate. And
As a great philosopher once said, be excellent to each other.
That'd be the great philosopher by the name of Bill.
Bill S. Preston, yeah.
Yeah. Portrayed by, I don't know if Keanu Reeves is a method actor or not.
I feel like he isn't.
Well, in the sense that most Keanu Reeves roles don't really require all that much method acting.
Whoa.
Not to, I love Keanu Reeves,
Sure.
not to
diss Keanu Reeves at all.
Yeah.
Truly, one of the finer actors of the 20th and 21st century.
I love him, but a lot of his characters don't typically have very heavy. He doesn't chew the scenery.
No, he doesn't need to.
He doesn't overact.
No, I just watched one of his movies that you loaned to me.
Yeah, I loaned
on
you
VHS.
my Blu-ray VHS.
Oh, right.
I loaned it to you on what is I suppose Betamax would be the
Betamax.
Blu-ray version of VHS.
Laserdisc.
Except Betamax didn't catch on.
No, it didn't. It should have. Oh man, the full rich quality of Betamax was awesome.
Did you have a Betamax player?
Actually, yeah. When I was a kid, we did. We had a Betamax player.
Was it actually better than VHS?
Oh man, no.
No?
It really wasn't. It was equally as amazing at the time.
Okay.
Now you look back on it and you go,
Maybe not.
because I worked at a TV station that used Betamax.
Really?
Yeah, for all their commercials and all their shoots.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was funny because a friend of mine, would leave, and I'm going to go to another place. I need to take my master beta with me. And I was like, look, I'm 12 and I'm laughing at what you just said.
It's so funny. I had to step off mic for a second to grab my phone so I could tell what time it was.
Well, yeah, gotta know what time it is.
But yeah, and how was Laserdisc, by the way? That's a thing. Laserdisc I know nothing about.
Laserdisc was also amazing. I mean, that was great quality. I mean, you'd flip them. It was funny in the middle of the movie, this giant LP sized disc.
Yeah.
It would flip.
You
watch the rest of the movie.
You would actually flip them?
You would flip them, yeah.
Oh, I had no idea because I've always heard the joke is like, oh, it's like vinyl but for movies.
Yeah.
But you actually had to flip them.
I watched the movie Heavy Metal on.
Okay.
That was the first Laserdisc I ever watched. My friend of mine said, "Hey, there's cartoon tits in this movie. You gotta come. You gotta come watch." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm on.
All right,
all right, I'm over."
I'll get this on Laserdisc. How long did Laserdisc last?
Not a whole long time.
Yeah.
Just like 20 or so years.
Okay. Because I don't know. I don't really know anybody who had a Laserdisc or still has, because my parents still have the combination DVD and VHS player.
Sure.
Simply because we had a fair amount of VHS tapes that we had collected for a long time, because that's what we had forever and ever and ever.
And then you recorded them from VHS to DVD.
We did not do that.
No, you didn't do that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Most of the VHSs that we had were kids' movies, because that's, when they had VHS tapes, that's what there were little kids around. I think my dad still, to this day, I know he can name the characters off the top of his head, but in its prime, And in his prime as a dad, I think he could probably recite most of Beauty and the Beast by heart. Oh well,
yeah, sure.
Because before I came along, he had 2 young girls who wanted nothing more than to watch Beauty and the Beast over and over and over again. And then when I came around, I think my main obsession, I was obsessed with dinosaurs forever and ever. So my
Land Before Time.
Land Before Time, and then also more palatable for adults would be Jurassic Park.
Oh, sure.
More palatable adults and surprisingly frightening for a child. Although I think the only thing that scared me about Jurassic Park was the Dilophosaurus.
The Dilophosaurus, really?
The one that spits on Wayne Knight.
Oh, sure.
And then eats him.
It was terrifying.
Yeah, that scene scared the shit out of me as a child. But everything else in the movie I loved. I adored Jurassic Park.
Newman! Yeah, that's what...
I still love Jurassic Park. It's one of my favorite movies.
And it holds up.
Oh, it holds up so well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Jurassic Park. So, Stormblast. Blasting them dinosaurs.
We off-ramped.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Stormblast, all about dinosaurs.
No dinosaurs on the album at all.
I'm trying to think of what my favorite song is. I think part of the problem for me is simply because I don't know I know I've listened to it enough times now that I know the songs by their tune, but I do not know them by name because it's all in Norwegian.
Yeah, and I hate to do this because we've done this quite a bit. The title cut,
the title track.
I really enjoy Stormblast. The title track.
Yeah, and the title track is very good.
It is, and I compared the two between the 2005 and 1996 version, and they're very different.
Really?
And I almost have to say I like the 2005 version better.
Okay, that's your exception.
That's my exception. I mean, there are always exceptions. I like how the keyboards play off the guitars in that one.
Yeah,
I really enjoy the harmonies.
That's my main thing. That's what I'm saying about keyboards is I think it fits better when everything is more on level with each other in terms of fidelity.
Sure. And I thought the keyboards were a little lo-fi in the original cut. Anyway.
Slightly.
Yeah.
But that's probably because they were jamming it through some sort of
a Walkman.
Yeah. I'm thinking of on like Tim and Eric sketches on Adult Swim, where they film all their sketches in HD and then run it through a VHS player.
Right.
They have like wires set up where it will play on one computer and then like it'll go through all the wiring in the VHS player and come out on the other side with like VHS grain on it.
Right, because that's what they want, what they're going for.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that's like what they did with the keyboards on the first version. I think also like probably had a different and more modern keyboard in 2005 that had better settings more than likely. Because in
It's just dawning on me that 2005 is 14 years ago now.
It is, yeah. I would have been 9.
Wow.
I'd been 9 years old when the re-recorded version of this album came out.
9.
9. Sorry, I don't know what came over me.
Hitler, apparently.
I don't want Hitler to come over me.
Wow, that's a song lyric right there. Yeah,
that's an anal cunt song right there. They already had Hitler as a sensitive man, so
sure,
or was a sensitive man.
Hitler was a vegetarian.
That's just a true fact about him.
So that was a Residence song, but
okay,
it's not something for.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, that's not an AC song.
No, because you only get to say the actual name of AC once per podcast.
I'm only gonna drop the C bomb once this podcast. I already put the explicit tag on it, but I feel like there's a worse tag that I would need to put on it. Not that I have anything against the C word, but a lot of people do.
Sure.
I enjoy the sounds, the sonorous qualities of the C word, but I think we should feel better about, or I think we should feel more about the C word the way that they do in the UK and Australia and whatnot.
Well, yeah, how it gets used. Like jerk, you're a jerk, or you're a C word.
I remember seeing. I will drop it one more time for this anecdote. I remember seeing a tweet where it was people in the United States get upset when people say the word cunt.
Mm-hmm.
People in the UK get upset when children are slaughtered at a school.
Oh, I'm laughing, but that's sad.
It's sad, but it's like, yeah, we have weird priorities in this country. But
it's a bit weird, and it's like the old joke goes. It was an interview with the Police. It was Sting.
The band, The Police?
The band, The Police.
Okay.
Sting says, "What has 3 legs and a cunt? A drum throne." So there you go. Now I got mine out.
There. Okay. We're all out of C words.
Yeah, we're all out. Of course, the other side of that joke was, "What do you throw your bass player when he's drowning?" His amp. Yeah, there you go.
Hey.
Hey. What do you call a bass player who just broke up with his girlfriend? Homeless. No.
So many bass player jokes. You got any more?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
All right.
One thing I do want to talk about Dimmu Borgir is they are, unlike who we talked about briefly last week, being Krallis, which was,
Who was supposed to be the
ostensibly the focus of the episode. Unlike Krallis, these guys are much into the style. The visual style is very black metal.
Yeah, and it's awesome. They do it very well.
Yeah, lots of, corpse paint, lots of leather, lots of the armbands with the spikes and everything.
The videos are done very well.
Yeah, they're very much into the visual aspect of black metal.
Sure.
And I do appreciate that somewhat. Like I have my own issues with the community at times, but like I do kind of like it's just part of it.
That part of the theater is really fun.
Yeah, seeing everyone dressed up in that manner, because otherwise it's kind of like you're just watching a slightly more evil sounding thrash band or something.
What's the point of the way? If they come out looking like Weezer, I mean,
if they come out looking like a metalcore band or
Sure.
something.
Not that there's anything wrong with metalcore or Weezer.
If they come out looking like
Duran Duran.
well, I was gonna say Bring Me the Horizon, but okay. That's a Bring Me the Horizon is a topic in itself that I don't want to get into right just this moment.
No.
But maybe someday we'll review one of theirs. They're one of the they're so metalcore that I feel like you wouldn't enjoy it simply because they're so metalcore. Like they were the peak of like mid 2000s to 2010 style, along with bands like Attack and I'm trying to think of other really sceney. Asking Alexandria and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Really scene heavy metalcore bands with the raccoon tail hair and eyeshadow on stage and that sort of thing. Like really heavy into the emo style that sort of bled in after 2005 when emo as a genre died and all of the people that were in that community migrated.
They had to go somewhere.
They all migrated into metalcore, which before that was still mostly made up of bands like All That Remains, Killswitch Engage, Converge. It was still more metallic hardcore than it was what we would now think of as metalcore.
And then when the new scene showed up, they went,
this is
hi,
hello guys. You've got a bunch of like guys that grew up listening to hardcore, like guys that grew up listening to Black Flag and shit like that, and still had their battle vests and camo pants and whatnot on. And then all these fucking emo kids start showing up and starting bands in what is technically the same genre and playing on the same bill, and it's kind of like, what's going on with this? How did this happen?
Yeah. How do we deal with this?
So yeah, that's something we'll talk about later. Metalcore May, which we got to do a non-theme month.
A non-theme month?
Yeah, maybe March will be the non-theme month.
Let's do Metal March.
Just Metal March.
Metal.
What I was thinking for March is like there's no theme, not even metal. We just bring anything we like.
Or something that is a march. We'll do John Philip Sousa stuff.
Yeah, just marching band.
Yeah.
Just marching band music in March. That's what we'll bring. So any other anecdotes that you want to share about Dimmu Borgir? I guess like one thing that we didn't talk all that much about with Mayhem, simply because it was not a huge part of, I guess, your listening experience. Mm-hmm. How did you get introduced to Dimmu Borgir? Is this something that you listened to back in 1996, or is Dimmu Borgir much newer to you than that?
It's newer to me than that. I mean, it was parallel to what I was listening to back in 1996, mm-hmm. and prior to that, but it was never something I really touched down on until probably the early 21st century.
Okay.
And
the new millennium.
The new millennium.
Ooh, the Fopper stand is back. Ooh, hello.
How delightful. So, and it was. And by then they'd really established their look and their theatrics, and it was I almost felt like I'd missed the boat.
Yeah, I suppose you could feel that way.
Yeah,
that's how I feel with like every band. Is like there are very, very few bands that I have been around for when they were coming up.
Oh sure, yeah.
Like one of the only bands that I think that I've kind of been around for that has gotten started and has become popular is like Silent Planet, because I was already listening to metalcore when they started, when they put out their first LP, right. And I went to a show of theirs when they were touring for that first LP, and when there was started to be buzz about them on Reddit and whatnot, and it was waiting for the release of their sophomore album,
right?
And that's one of the very first bands. And I like that feeling.
That is a great feeling.
Where you feel like these guys are going to be good. They already are good. They just need a little bit more refinement, and I can't wait to hear more from them.
See, that's how I felt being a young teenager in 1986.
Oh, so much.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was this band. It was their third album, and somebody gave me a copy of it. It was a copy of a copy of a copy. And I listened to it over and over and over until it was almost dead on the tape. Mm-hmm. And it was Rain and Blood.
Oh, it was Slayer. Okay.
Yeah, like, these guys are great. These guys are gonna break big.
Yeah, and they certainly did.
They did. Yeah.
I wonder if they've gotten started with their tour yet with Cannibal Corpse.
Cannibal Corpse.
I haven't. I have no further updates on the situation with Pat. I have no further updates. I don't know if there's been any other updates that have come out about what's going on with him. But
you have to imagine that every day somebody comes up to me, "Hey man, you okay?" And then his response is, "Oh fuck."
I blew my chance to tour on like the last Slayer tour ever.
This is fucked up, dude.
It's just
he's responding that way.
That has got to suck so much. And like the concern from the rest of the members of the band, I wonder like what that was about, whether it was primarily like, and I don't know what their band culture is like. I'm sure they're all great friends, but sure. Like on one hand, you've got the concern of like, what the fuck did Pat just do? We're worried about him. This isn't normally like him. Maybe it is normally like them and they weren't surprised.
Sure.
Or was it like, fuck, we're about to go on tour with fucking Slayer. A fucking Slayer farewell tour. This is probably going to be the most money Cannibal Corpse
will made in a long time.
Will have made, being second build, maybe the even third build behind Lamb of God.
Even so.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like the most money that they'll have made on a tour. Not that they're an unpopular band; they're the biggest death metal band in the world, but.
Yeah, you have to assume that the rest of the band, I mean, they're not idiots. They knew that there was a ticking time bomb among them.
They have to have known.
And he might not be the only ticking time bomb.
Tipping
time bomb.
God, you started speaking fucking Vietnamese there.
Ticking time bomb, among them.
Yeah. I feel like they had to have known because there was rumors for a while that he was using meth. At least that's what I understand.
Sure.
That
after the fact? We find out the rumors were there after the incident.
Well, because I don't follow Cannibal Corpse very closely, but that's what I had heard on like comments online. People saying, there had been rumors that Pat had troubles with drugs, And I'm sure they'd been over to his house and seen his 80+ firearms, his flamethrower, and his skulls. Because I can't imagine Corpse Grinder's house looks like that. Because Corpse Grinder has fucking kids.
He has kids, and he likes to play video games, and he's in regular life, a really big neck. And, he's just a dude.
His giant neck.
Yeah.
All of his muscle mass is concentrated in his neck.
I still, my favorite thing, I think about it every once in a while, is the fact that they got kicked off the video game. What was it that Cannibal Corpse got kicked out of the
some sort of video
conference.
game awards, wasn't it?
Right, because he referred to a video game as being gay.
Or there was controversy about that.
Right, and it's like, he okay, well, yeah, he's using that as a derogatory slang, and I can see people saying, we're against that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But really, that's where we're drawing the line.
Yeah, with guys from Cannibal Corpse. That's where we're gonna draw the line. Well, it's
addicted to vaginal skin.
Fucked with a knife.
Hammer sodomy.
Hammer smashed face. That's where we're gonna draw the line on Cannibal Corpse content. And I think gaming is somewhat more sensitive to that. Not that I want to say, using gay as a derogatory term is fine. I don't necessarily approve of that, but it's like, if they had said that, I think in any other context, I don't know if there would have been much backlash.
Maybe, yeah, because he was talking about a game.
Yeah, and you look at other music communities, like you look at hip hop, and I don't know how prevalent it still is today, but even hip hop from 5 years ago, people saying the other F word constantly and using it.
Oh, sure, right.
In a derogatory fashion. You had to think of it for a second.
The other F word.
The F word that I wouldn't say.
Fork?
Yes, fork.
Okay, all right.
Forked with a knife. That's got to be a Cannabis Corpse song, right?
It does. It has to be forked with a knife.
Forked with a knife. I need to listen to Cannabis Corpse at some point, and see just sort of what they're like. Because have you also ever listened to Mac Sabbath?
Yes, I have listened to Mac Sabbath, the McDonald's themed Black Sabbath cover band.
Yep. I haven't, but I'm interested. I'm interested in listening to them at some point. So, all right, I think it's about time for us to start wrapping up a little bit. I think the notes were beneficial. It's just so. Everything was in Norwegian, so it is hard to really nail down certain things to talk about. But
yeah, because that was tough for me. I was listening to the album and I'm thinking, okay, I want to make note of. No, there's no way. There's no way I'm gonna make note of this.
I don't want to expend.
Song.
I don't want to expend the energy to translate these.
I need to learn Norwegian this
week. Regardless of the Norwegian, I think Dimmu Borgir is a very colorful band. They're a lot of fun, I'd say. Especially if you're looking for like hi-fi black metal that is not taking itself super seriously. It's not like scary or intimidating or anything like that. It's I feel like it's fairly accessible as far as black metal goes.
Just theatrical.
Which is fairly accessible for black metal is still rather inaccessible in a general music sense, but if you're looking for an intro to black metal that is maybe like a little bit hokey, that's maybe has a negative context, but like something that is kind of more fun is what I'm trying to say. Hokey is like hillbilly shit.
Yeah, that's hokey.
That's hillbilly shit.
It's so hokey.
That's not at all the right adjective, but something that is campy, I think is what is closer to camp. That is maybe a little bit more palatable.
And like I said, the original recording of this album was good. I mean, even for being as lo-fi as it is.
It wasn't bad. I don't want you to think that I thought the original recording was bad. If that was all there was, I probably thought it would have been good. I just think that the new version is better.
Okay.
I think
the original had more heart. I felt that one.
And I think that's a fine argument to make. I think there is definitely place for that argument, and I definitely feel that way about other things where like the original had a bit more heart, especially movie remakes.
Oh sure.
Good God, like I have very rarely seen a remake of a movie that had any of the heart of the original. I haven't seen the new version of Suspiria yet, but I know that is a remake of a movie I haven't seen.
They remade Suspiria?
They did, and apparently it's fucking great.
Really?
Apparently the new Suspiria is really good.
I love Suspiria.
Everything I've heard is it's one of the best movies of the year.
I'm trying to think, what year did Suspiria come out?
It was the 70s, wasn't it?
Was it in the 70s?
Yeah, I think the remake doesn't necessarily completely follow the plot of the original movie.
Right.
But what I've heard is that it is very, very good on its own.
It's all in English, right?
Yeah, the remake I'm pretty sure is in English. I think. I don't know. I haven't watched it yet. It's sort of been on a list ever since I heard about it, because I hadn't really heard about the original, and then I heard people talking about this movie Suspiria and saying, oh, it's a remake, but it's really good. I can't remember who the director was, but he's a director that is known for making like good movies. It wasn't just some nobody that a studio hired to, remake RoboCop. We'll just hire this fucking schmutt.
Luca Guadagnino.
Yeah, I think he is known for making fairly like artsy. Is he Italian?
Luca Guadagnino? Yes.
I don't know. Maybe
Yes,
he's from Greece. It's not a Greek name.
The original movie. When the hell did the original movie come out?
Oh, is that the director of the original
that's
movie?
the original, the new one. Dario Argento is the original director.
All I've heard is a lot of people say that the new version is very good. I think it's available on Amazon.
1977, the original. Yeah.
I think the new version of Suspiria is available on Amazon.
Yeah, I watched it with that hobo I was dating.
Oh, with the crust punk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we watched it together. I think we did some experimental drugs that night.
some like you were participating in an FDA survey, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. We were the control group.
You were the control group in a big. You're part of the big pharma conspiracy.
Yeah. There was a lot of pharma going on.
A lot of. All right, so that's all we have to say, I guess, tonight.
All right.
If you like this sort of stuff, please share us with your friends. We're on social media. You can go on Facebook. You can share links with your friends on there. You can go on Twitter. You can retweet us every time we put up an episode. There will be a tweet, and you can press retweet. And it'll put it up on your buddies' pages, and it's just a direct link to the episode. Mm-hmm. It's super duper easy. The wonders of modern technology.
It's marvelous.
It's word of mouth. And you don't even got to use your mouth.
No, you don't. You get to use your finger.
It's just your
word
finger.
Of finger.
Word of finger. So, help us spread this podcast.
Finger us to your friends.
Finger us to your friends and let us, or finger us to your friends and help us spread this podcast like some sort of virulent STD.
Exactly. Listen to our podcast, Burn When It Pee.
Burn when it pee. Burn when it pee?
Burn when it pee.
You turned into a caveman for a second. Listen to the podcast, Burn when it pee. Yahoo! Yahoo! Mountain Dew. I'm going to find the gold.
There's a gold mine up there.
God damn it. All right. Thank you for listening to an episode of The Bronze. Just an episode.
An episode of the
I'm thanking even the people that haven't listened to this one, but have listened to a different one.
Sure.
So thank you for listening to this episode also of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.